So the next kit is the Hellebore and Twig planter kit. Again, we bought this back this year. It's just a lovely special kit and so beautiful for Christmas. So lovely to have on your, kitchen table or your dining table or your island. It's a really, really lovely, versatile kit and comes with this beautiful pot, which is just scalloped and just a lovely size. We use it a lot for like herbs and things like that. So once your hellebores go over and you pop them in the garden, you can fill it with all sorts of beautiful things. So it's a really, really lovely kit for Christmas and just winter in general. So in your kit, you will have 3 of these adorable little hellebore kits, hellebore plants. So these are slightly older. So we've had these a couple of weeks. So they've started to flower. Yours might look a little bit more like this, just depending on how cold it is as we near into sort of November, December. So you'll have 3 of those. You'll have your gravel, compost, and your 2 types of moss, and you'll have your birch twigs and your dried thyme. So what we do to begin with is so these are just bigger because I'm hoping you can see them on the camera, but you'll have your little bundle in your kit. So we'll start with adding in our gravel. So your gravel will come in brown paper bags, and you can just add that in all to the bottom of your pot. Put your pot on the saucer first. So this just adds to the drainage. It means that your hellebores aren't sort of sat in water for prolonged periods of time, so you're not going to sort of kill them prematurely. Adding in a layer of compost, so a decent, a decent handful on top of that gravel. And I'm just going to sort of see where it sits. So I'm actually going to pop in another handful because I want them to sit sort of, about flush with the rim of the pot. I'm then going to sort of add my little plants in, and to sort of a bit of a tip to kind of make it sit right, in my opinion, is to sort of pop them in at a slight angle. So you're kind of angling them towards the sort of side of the pot. So you're not popping them in straight, you're sort of angling them slightly to the side. Now, as I said, these are brand new. Well, not brand new, these are sort of a couple of weeks old, but they are quite fresh and quite young. There's still lots of buds underneath. So once your hellebores are planted and start to grow, all these flowers will come up and they just look so beautiful. Okay. So I'm now going to add in the compost around the edges. So just in those gaps, I'm just going to add in the compost. Should have used a little shovel, but never mind. And your plants will then benefit from all this new sort of nutrient dense compost. And then just sort of gently push that down. Always being mindful with hellebores of the little buds at the base. So what you might also find is if yours are really, really sort of fresh and new, excuse me, a lot of the buds will be under the soil. So just be really mindful of that and just be really delicate with them. Okay, so then gently sort of push that down. And now I'm going to add in the compost. I'm going to pop in, not the compost, the moss. I'm going to pop in the flat moss first. So that's the kind of sort of woodland floor kind of feel one. Just going to add that on top of the compost. It looks lovely, but it also stops the water from evaporating from your compost really quickly. So it keeps that soil damp for longer. Okay, and then I'm going to add in the sphagnum moss. So the sphagnum moss is slightly sort of two-tone in texture and colour. It's sort of a bit browner. It's got tones of brown, green, and sort of like a beige. And you'll have less of this one. You'll have more of the flat moss, because the purpose of the sphagnum moss is just to add sort of little touches. I'm probably just going to add it in three places, just to add in a little bit of contrast. Pop a bit more flat moss there. Okay, and now I'm going to pop in the sort of twigs. So you've got your birch twigs and your dried thyme. So with the dried thyme, you can simply just sort of snap bits off and just add that in your moss. It doesn't need to get to the compost because it's dry, so it doesn't need a water source. And it just adds a really nice contrasting kind of tone to your kit. And you can keep them as tall or as short as you want them to be. It's completely up to you. They don't add any sort of structural support to the plant, so it's completely your choice how you want it to look. You can go as wild or as sort of structured as you want to. In my eye. Okay, and then I'm going to pop in my birch twigs. So with those, you simply just need to cut some down into sort of little sections, and again, completely up to you how sort of tall you want them to be. I don't like them to be too tall above the sort of where the flowers sit, so I kind of keep mine a little bit low, maybe just slightly above, but not too high. In terms of care for your hellebores, they are predominantly obviously an outdoor plant, so once they've finished in your homes, you can put them in the garden and they will come back year after year, which is just lovely to see them sort of springing up when the weather gets cold. But indoors, the best way to look after them is to keep them as cool as possible and keep the soil damp by watering every sort of 3 days. You can put the entire plant in a sink of water if you want to, give it a couple of hours to soak up that drink, or you can water around the base, sort of making sure you're watering the compost and not just the moss. So yeah, sort of every 3 days, keep it as cool as possible, not near a radiator, not near any fruit, especially bananas. And then when you find that your flowers sort of go over, you can snip them down either at the base of the stem, or if it's on one like this one here where it's got a bud next to it, you can take the flower that's gone over down to where the bud is, snip that off, and then this bud will then bloom. And that's about it. So just keep it as cool as possible, soil damp at all times, plant it in the garden when it goes over completely, and that is about it. So that is your Hellebore and Twig plant kit.